All right, we're back in the tent. We have a special guest today, James Tamplin from Firebase, co-founder and CEO. Welcome. Thanks for making time and joining us here.
It's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your journey from England here through Y Combinator, and you just raised a round. So tell us a little bit about what's going on with you guys and all the cool things that you're working on.
Yeah, definitely. So Firebase is a real-time backend. So we let developers build apps without servers or databases. They just write the front-end code, so the code that runs in the browser on your phone, and we take care of the rest.
Wow.
So yeah, I started off, I grew up in London, just west of London, and I actually moved to Minnesota, so just by Chicago, in high school, and that's actually where I met my co-founder. So he and I have known each other for more than a decade now.
Awesome.
And we went to separate colleges, and ended up meeting up about 5 years ago. And we both were kind of dissatisfied with our situations, and we wanted to start our own company. So we started working together. I joined him in Santa Barbara, which is in Southern California. And we've been working together for 5 years. We've had 4 different companies.
What happened to the first 3?
So the first one failed miserably.
Okay.
Absolutely atrociously miserably.
What was it?
So it was a little fingerprint sensor that you'd plug into your iPhone. And when you entered a building or you made a credit card transaction, it would come to your iPhone and you could authenticate with your fingerprint.
Earlier, because that sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, it does. I think there were a couple of reasons. One is hardware is extraordinarily difficult.
Yep.
So you need a lot of venture capital, and we were 2 23-year-olds in a garage.
But let's think about this. What if there was crowdfunding like as it is today? Could it have worked maybe?
So brings up the second issue, which is biometrics are extraordinarily difficult to get adoption in the consumer world. They're okay with like Department of Defense where it's mandated, but people are, you think people get scared about, newsfeed and privacy on social media. Well, taking your fingerprint is a whole nother level. So we failed to do the customer development, which is now so predominant with Steve Blank and Eric Ries and those pieces. We just we made all the rookie mistakes.
Okay, and then number 2?
Number 2, we moved into consumer web.
Okay.
And it was a startup. It was called Send Me Home. And what you could do is you could create a blog around a physical object. So this, for example, and you could you'd give it a unique identifier, and people who interacted with it could add a chapter to its story. So your car or your apartment or the Statue of Liberty, and when different people came in contact with it, they could tell its story. And the idea here was there's this social construct called the binary social theory, where humans kind of intrinsically divide ourselves into 2 groups, us and them.
Yep.
And this happens in football matches up to like geopolitical conflicts. And kind of the thesis behind this was if we could bring people together through physical threads, when people tried to divide them, it would be more difficult because they'd have commonalities with Americans and people in Iran, or Australians and people in India, or whatever the Palestinians and Israelis, whatever it was. So it's a little hard to pull people apart if they have these individual personalized connections.
And then
and so that we ended up selling that for a small amount of money. Cool. It got some usage, but it was difficult to make money off of.
Sure.
So we sold that. And then company number 3 was a chat company, and it actually was born out of the second Send Me Home. And we really wanted people to develop relationships, and the way to do that is through fluid communication.
Yep.
So comments and private messages were not enough. We needed to have a chat system on the site. And so we looked around to see if we could find a chat system, and there were no good ones, so we built our own. So it was called Involve, and it was basically Facebook-style chat, but for any website. Yep, so it was a couple lines of JavaScript. You just drop it in and you'd get like a fully fleshed out chat system.
So I can see the trend. You like that model, right?
Uh-huh.
You like the model of a simple plugin and then handling the backend. And then was Firebase kind of brewing in the background of all this, or did it evolve through this experience?
Yeah, so we did Y Combinator in the summer of 2011, and there were a couple of big realizations while going through YC. One was that the biggest customers for our chat they wanted way more. So our gaming customers were trying to send game data through the chat system, and our like CBS and Universal Music, the big brands, wanted to customize the interface. And there were a ton of great developers out there who could build interfaces and experiences and UIs. And there were very few like Google, Facebook quality engineers who could build a real-time backend to power those. Sure. So we decided, hey, if we build an API down to the infrastructure that we already built for the chat, we can let people not only build chat, but any application.
And so that, you went into Y Combinator, and talk about that experience a little bit, because as you know, we're putting together a regional accelerator. So our accelerator isn't like Y Combinator. We're trying to be a regional accelerator of accelerators. So what we're going to do is pick teams that have gone through a program in the Middle East, have the structure, are either at revenue or product. So we're going to accelerate them a little bit later stage. But talk about the experience of Y Combinator and how that changed, the path that you've been on since then.
Yeah, so I believe it's Frederick Taylor. He was kind of the father of modern like industrial management, and he had a quote that said, "Work expands to fit the time allotted." And I think that's like entirely true. If you have a deadline, like you make sure you hit that deadline, and you work and prioritize and optimize to hit that. And YC is exactly that. It's 3 months of just very intense, stringent and structured work. And you're placed alongside a cohort of people, and it's 3 months, and they're all working towards this goal of demo day. And you have to have something to show by then. And so you're with your peers, you're going through the structured program, and it forces you to crank out some really great work and some really great product.
Did you have kind of the basis or the foundation of it done before you went in, or was it built pretty much during those 3 months?
So with Involve, we had
the core of it.
We had the core of it, but we had a long way to go before demo day. And then kind of right before demo day, we realized we actually wanted to do Firebase, and that was going to be the big thing. But we pitched Involve at demo day.
Oh, I see. And so then you come out of YC, and that was when?
That was September 2011.
2011. Okay, so then what happens next?
So next we started working on Firebase. We tried to raise a round, but Firebase was vaporware then. So we had two people invest, both of which were kind of betting on Andrew, my co-founder, and I, as opposed to the actual product.
That's cool.
And so we hired a couple guys off very, very small amount of money, and we just kept building. And we got some early customers, and we kept validating and just kind of getting feedback and understanding what people wanted and how they would use it.
Okay.
And we launched about a year ago out of private and into the public eye. And
awesome. And so how big is it now? How many people?
So yeah, we have 8 people, 7 full-time. We got 22,000 developers.
Wow.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Using us. We see disaster simulation apps using us. We see the University of Texas is using us to monitor the health of their supercomputers. We have a lot of games, a lot of social apps, a lot of collaboration.
I actually have a chat app that I want to do. It's called Dump Something.
Yeah.
So the idea when Draw Something was big, I thought, okay, so there was a guy from Mexico talking about something about toilets, and I'm like, what if you created a chat where someone wanted to dump something while they were sitting on the toilet, like a something that they were stressed out about, or and then whoever else was on the toilet at the same time could give them like advice or console them.
It'd be like the virtual, like you scribble on the stall wall, and this would be
basically
the
right?
virtual version of that.
So it's Dump Something. I bought the domain, so I'm gonna work on this sometime.
I love it.
So fast forward to.
I want to hear more about your crazy app ideas at some point, because that is awesome.
I've got tons of them, but that one I don't know, just came out of nowhere. David Weekley and I were talking, and he's like, "That's kind of cool, Dump Something." Anyway, okay, so fast forward. You got all these developers using it. By the way, I saw you guys are involved with Angel Hack, and I'm helping Greg with the accelerator there as well. And a lot of people used the product at the hackathon 2 weeks ago. So it's been validated. It's great. And so now all of a sudden, you guys just raised a round. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, we're a big fan of hackathons. we exist to help people build great experiences very quickly, and hackathons are like the perfect place to do that. And Greg and Angel Hack and Startup Weekend and various pieces have been fantastic for us and for the participants. So we just raised a $5.6 million round from Union Square Ventures and Flybridge.
Awesome.
Union Square is famous for Twitter, Tumblr, Etsy, Foursquare,
Wow.
Zynga, and Flybridge they led our seed round. They were in MongoDB early on, and they've done some other great developer products like Crashlytics.
Wow.
So yeah, really excited to have them. It was an intense few months raising the round, but
so that brings up a good point, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. But here you are building a product, and like all of a sudden now you have to kind of switch hats, and you have to be this guy, talk to the angels and investors, and it's very time consuming. And it's kind of painful, or I don't know. I found the experience pretty painful. Tell me a little bit, like, what was it like, and did you get traction right away, or were people just super excited?
Yeah, so fundraising's it's necessary.
Evil.
It's not evil. It's defocusing.
Defocusing. Yeah.
You obviously need the capital to survive, but it's an amazing exercise in business development, especially for us because we want to sell to their portfolio companies. So I've now built a bunch of relationships and can get a lot of introductions.
Oh, cool.
So I kind of, if you look at it as a sales exercise in addition to a fundraising exercise, thank you. I think it works nicely. Yeah, we got some initial early traction because we had some VCs in our seed round. So we've been building that relationship for the course of the past year, and I'd highly recommend getting some small VC funds in your seed round. Not huge ones.
Are they starting to do that more? Because
I think so, yeah.
Just to build a relationship early on, have them throw something in just to get them on board, and then hopefully as you get traction, it leads to the bigger round.
Yeah, seed rounds like seed is the new A.
Yeah, totally.
Just like pink, it's the new pink. You don't need to buy servers and rent data centers, so the cost of starting something is now dramatically lower. And so if you find a small fund who's really engaged with you, I'd recommend getting them in your seed round.
So then you raised $5.6 million. What are you guys gonna do with it?
Party.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I come?
Of course.
All right, cool.
Let's go to Vegas.
Yeah, let's go to Vegas.
No, we've got a lot of work to do.
What's on the roadmap?
So right now we support the web and iOS, and we're coming out with Android soon.
Yep.
So a lot of development work. We're launching out of beta very shortly, so we'll start charging folks. Hiring a lot of, when you're building a developer product, it's not necessarily the best product that wins, although that helps immensely. It's the community.
Yeah.
So you need to build an amazing community around your technology. And so we're planning on dumping a ton of resources into educational materials, more hackathons, a lot of videos and tutorials.
More hot sauce?
More hot sauce. You've seen the hot sauce?
I saw the hot sauce.
Awesome.
I tried to gaffle one, but I think he gave them away. But
yeah, so
that was super cool.
We have Firebase, the brand is fantastic. We got lighters and all this stuff, and one of the things is fiery hot sauce. So
that's super fun.
It's been a huge hit. We have any event we go to, we just that serves food, we'll go and put some hot sauce down at the end of the buffet, and it works like a charm.
That's super cool. So there are a bunch of hackathons going on in the Middle East, and Greg and I are going to work on setting up Angel Hack in the region as well. So would love to continue having you involved there and spread the word about Firebase, because I think it's a very valuable tool to people who don't have the skills and don't really have the expertise to build a solid backend. And so this whole idea of plug and play is super cool.
Yeah, there's this notion that coding is becoming the new literacy. In the Middle Ages, there were monks who sat in monasteries, throughout Europe and the Mediterranean, and they were the ones who got to read and write. And for the past 40 years, kind of programmers have been the monks, and it's been difficult, and it's been you need a bunch of education. But now we're getting to the phase where with Codecademy and Hackcelerator and some of these other pieces, it's being opened up to everyone, and the tools and resources to learn are right there and easily accessible. And so I think it's gonna herald kind of a new era.
That's awesome, and you're right in the middle of it. That's cool. So we do a little bit of storytelling in the show, and we talked about this. So the idea is we want you to tell a story about one part of your experience throughout the journey that you've been on so far. That's kind of a personal, like a topic or a part of a curriculum in a sense. We want people to learn, what does it really take to do that part. So I mentioned a couple topics to you. Did you pick one?
Yeah, I think I got a story for you.
Okay, good story. We love stories.
So we were just getting started, and I guess the moral of this story, since I'll repeat it again at the end, but it might get lost in the middle. So the moral of the story, I think, is just like the sacrifice it takes to get something started. Like, you need a huge amount of initial inertia to get the ball rolling.
Yep.
And you got to push. So this is my story of pushing. So I met up with Andrew summer of 2008, and I had just finished traveling. I took some time off in between university and working with him, and came back and started working together, and I had no money. Literally, I'd just been traveling, so I had nothing.
Yeah.
And I needed a job, but I couldn't go get a 40-hour-a-week job because that doesn't work. I needed to be working in the startup. So what I did was I got a job teaching gymnastics. So here's the catch. Here's the catch, though. I had never been a gymnast or didn't know anything about gymnastics, whatsoever. But it was great because it was 1-2 nights a week, and it was 4 or 5 hours, and I'd make enough to pay rent for the month and buy myself ramen. So I'd walk in, and basically I used to be an actor, and so I'm good at sounding authoritative, and so I was taught what to say, and Andrew had a connection at the gym. That's how I got in there, and so I taught the classes with him, and I'd sound authoritative, and I'd be like, you should do this, and this is how you do a back handspring, and that's how I paid my way initially.
Have you met Kieran Farr from Vidcast? So he drove a taxi.
Yep. Kieran's a good friend. Yeah.
He was on the show a while back, but it's funny because I think people don't realize how hard it really is to not have to work full time at some corporate job and then be able to do this, but have the time. Because I know with my efforts, I'm doing 12, 14-hour days. And it's not even a big company. We're just creating content and educational stuff, but it is tough, finding that balance, especially in the beginning. So. Yeah,
time is a finite resource, and that's all the way from inception.
Is there a video of you?
I hope not.
If you can find it, we would love to have it show it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the final thing, and then we'll have another guest join us, talk a little bit about what's going on in the fundraising ecosystem. One rule. What's your golden rule?
Help everyone you can. This whole ecosystem is fueled by the generosity of other entrepreneurs, and if you don't give, you get what you give, basically, and karma comes around and goes around.
So in the spirit of helping, I hate to put you on the spot, but so we're doing this accelerator. Can we get you to commit a couple hours sometime in October?
Sure.
Awesome. So ladies and gentlemen, if you're going to be part of the accelerator, James will be a mentor.